Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the second Linux user group of October. Goodness gracious. It seems like time just keeps floating on because it does. And we are two less was it 2 months away from Christmas? And then the end of the year, and then it's going to be 2026. Goodness gracious, where'd the year go? Anyway, so tonight we're going to be talking about home labs. Now we've done something like this before. We're gonna do a little bit of a roundtable on just more general tips we have for people who are interested in starting home labs, and whether you have a home lab or not in the group here, that doesn't really matter. If you have questions for those of us who do, that'd be something good to ask. I also have a list of questions here that I'll ask the panel as well, and if you have questions in the chat, go ahead and ping me and I'll try to get to them as we go along. So the first question I have, and by a show of hands, who actually has a home lab? And it doesn't need to be like a server, just like a computer. So D-Dubs, tell us about your home lab.
Well, predominantly it's based around three Proxmox servers because I do quite a bit of virtualization for dev, for testing, because I help several different projects. I've got gigabit switches. I've got uh, a bunch of old laptops that I've sort of gathered up over the years. I've got a minis forum. It's one of my main systems. So I just got this wide variety, and I actually swap them in and out on a 4-port KVM. So if I'm like right now, I've got a Fedora laptop that I'm doing some testing on, and then I throw on a Nix OS. So having that kind of flexibility, both for bare metal and for virtual, comes in real handy.
Cool. Greg, go ahead. Oh, you gotta unmute yourself.
Sorry, I put my hand down but didn't unmute myself.
That's okay.
My home lab is primarily about self-hosting. So I have what essentially is an old gaming rig that I turned into a Debian host, which then has Kimu KVM for the VMs, and I self-host some like Pi-hole type of DNS stuff. I have Nextcloud, Image, some things like that, and I got a TerraMaster NAS, but I stripped off whatever it came with and put TrueNAS on it, which has worked out pretty well. So I'm trying to de-Google myself with the home lab is basically it. So that's my setup.
I noticed that most people start off as the de-Googling. That's the impetus to get into home lab. I know that's where I started, was I wanted to get away from the streaming services and stuff. So, Gnome, go ahead.
I also run a Proxmox at home, and to get kind of hardware specific, I would have an old X99 platform that Nate pointed me to a Xeon V3 2699. I picked up for like 25 or 30 bucks with shipping. So it's got 18 cores, 36 threads, and it's 30 bucks for the CPU, and it fits in the old X99 platform. So that's a great base for a little server at home, and I do a lot of self-hosting myself. And as far as de-Googling, Nextcloud has a photo backup, so you don't have to use Google Photos anymore, which I also do myself.
Yeah, we should do a whole episode on Nextcloud. I have many thoughts. GNU2 Linux, go ahead.
I think it's fair to ask, what exactly is a home lab, and how is that different than self-hosting? Because I'm not sure what I do qualifies or not.
So you self-host on a home lab usually, but it doesn't mean you have dedicated hardware. A lot of people host some of their self-hosted stuff on their main regular PC. So if you just have like a regular, desktop PC and you happen to run a Docker container of Image or, Plex or whatever, it counts. It doesn't have to be like Techno Tim style. I have a whole rack of servers and lights and networking, and I've bought all of Costco's networking gear, that kind of thing. So basically anything. We all started off somewhere.
Well, in that case, I can say that I run Plex server on one of my desktops. It's not a dedicated server. It's just one of my Linux Mint machines. It serves double duty. downloading some stuff in the background, and I use it to play music and things like that. But yeah, you don't need a whole dedicated computer as a server specifically to do that.
I agree. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been self-hosting for the last 4 or 5 years, but in a VPS and only Node. Recently, I bought a tipless machine. Yeah, trying to move something for my want to self-host at home. The Nextcloud and Password Manager. Yeah, just keep my email in the cloud because I don't trust myself managing the email. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with. I haven't started yet. I got the hardware, but I think the approach I'm looking is now debating between OpenSense and or pfSense or Open WRT, and then as well, I think I'm gonna ditch. I don't gonna take the road of. I'm gonna do kind of the Greg is doing something. Yeah, just a Debian machine with the services.
Yeah, I have a VPS, but I don't use it for much home labbing stuff simply because I feel like I can just do most of it behind my own network. But I do have a website statistics tracker thing that I post in Picopods, which is one of those things that a lot of people use for some of the house self-hosting stuff. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I just paid $5 and I have Nextcloud, Ball Gordon, and what is the other? And Search. Just self-hosted for $5 is quite cheap. And another $5 for the storage, the file storage stuff.
Yeah, that the Linode and the DigitalOcean stuff for $5 is way a lot of people get started on that stuff, which is good. So for me, my home lab has changed a bit. So for the first year or so, I used Proxmox like UDubs. I didn't really utilize the power of it all that much, but I liked having it, and I like the idea of being able to use like LXC containers, and I had a couple VMs. Probably could have kind of split things up more, but I ended up just using one VM for all of my Docker containers. But then when 9 came out, there was something funky there with my network card, and it just would not work well with that version of Debian, so I had to use an older version. What I decided to do was just go to straight up Ubuntu on the home lab, and that's where I'm at now. And then I split off all of my file hosting to a dedicated file server because I don't have a NAS. I really want a NAS. I've thought about getting a NAS, but what I have is just a JBOD. I have an 8-disk JBOD down underneath my desk, and I think I have 6 disks in it now, so it's getting pretty full. But it's not the greatest thing because it's all transferred over USB. And Proxmox, I had the hardest time with Proxmox with USB pass-through. It just kept disconnecting all the time, and half the time when mount at startup. So I ended up doing the whole file server thing. And now that I'm on bare metal without Proxmox, basically I just put everything in a Docker container. I have this Docker Compose file, which is like 1.5 miles long, it has all of my containers in it, because it probably isn't. I don't know if that's the best way to do it or not, but it's the way I've decided to do it this time. It's just, if I ever have a situation where I need to start over again, I just can plug in that whole Compose file and just start up everything all at once. I'll set up a couple things. I don't have my backup script in there, but I may do that eventually. So, all right. So I guess the next thing I have Drew, go ahead. Good.
Sorry, I forgot. But so I use TrueNAS Scale. That's one of the things that I've been upgrading fairly recently. I decided that mechanical drives were just not where it's at anymore, and went with the SSDs across the board. So I have 6 4 terabyte SSDs, and I used, basically there's 2 parts of it. One's a mirroring part and the other one is kind of like cold storage. And so one of the things that I've been hosting with TrueNAS Scale, or actually a few things, is Fresh RSS. I know Matt is a big Fresh RSS kind of guy, and it's really cool. I mean, if any of you have the need to kind of aggregate some either news content or Git type of repos. That's where I've been kind of like adding more and more so that I can kind of follow along with what's happening on my favorite projects. Link Warden is another thing that I've been self-hosting, and that's been really good. I know Matt uses LinkedIn, and I looked at that. I thought that I might have gone that way, and I still might in the future. But Link Warden is something that I set up for both my wife and I, especially because we use kind of like a shared collection of links for specific things, and that works out very, very well. And in addition, by the way, I use Flockus as an extension on the browser so that I can get to my link warden links, or bookmarks, I should say. And then I have 3 more things that I installed as applications on TrueNAS. One is Olama, and with that is the Open Web UI. So I am running kind of a self-hosted AI through the TrueNAS scale, and then searching, or SEARX, searching. So I'm hosting my own search engine basically, which is great. I don't know. Matt does the same thing, in fact, I think, as well. So it's one of those things where it's kind of a meta search. You can incorporate lots of different searches. Lots of different search engines, I should say, and it kind of gives you a meta search result.
Yeah, Cirx is great. Excuse me. I looked at Woogle. You used Woogle for a little while.
I did, yeah. Hoogle, or WHOOGLE.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Just, I'm gonna lose my mouth. Pardon me. I tried that for a little while and I could not get it to work very well. It had some really bad CSS problems. I'm not sure what was going on there, but and mostly I just did that because I wanted to try it. But Search is just fantastic. Once you host your own search engine, it's really hard to go back and use a national brand search engine. Every once in a while I'll find myself, like, I think images is like the one area where you have to kind of go use Google. If they improved their image search just a tiny bit, so when you searched for, I don't know, a dog, you didn't get pictures of cats. I mean, that happens quite more often than you want. But that's about the only downside I have. And it's possible, Drew, for me at least, I don't know, because I haven't done much tweaking when it comes to the, how you can kind of weight the search engines that it pulls from. It's possible that I could get this images to be better if I, did some tweaking there. But
so
yeah.
Is it your default search for your search for Vivaldi for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and on my phone too. It's just like everywhere. I just don't use it. I set up a Cloudflare tunnel so I can, even if I'm out and about, I can just Google search it. I need to change the verb, but yeah, it's really, really good. I actually helped somebody on the Discord last night setting up their own instance of it. It's good stuff. By the way, I have a video on Cirx. I did a little bit of YouTube in there. If you want to, anyone wants to set it up. All right, Greg, you looks like you're next. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah. So +1 for searching. That is really a good thing to self-host. And then I just had a question for you, Drew. You mentioned Olama I think on your TrueNAS scale, which I use scale, but do you have is there a GPU in the device that runs the TrueNAS, or how are you doing the horsepower behind Olama?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be able to, beyond the like kind of base models that are very, very small. Let me look at my, I have it's only 32 gigs of memory. Where's my CPU? Oh, there it is. AMD Ryzen 5 Pro with 4650G with Radeon graphics as a integrated. So it has some GPU power, but not that much. So you're kind of restricted. The other thing that I do though is I set up an API with Open Router, and I incorporate that as well for more of the beefy stuff. Like like I'll like right now my my default my default AI model that I'm hosting is not really hosting, but is the GP or Chat GPT 5 Nano, because it doesn't cost very much. So if I do use that, but overall, yeah, I have two locally hosted models that I don't use nearly as much as I should, that are free and it's private. Yeah, it works ish.
Yeah, I have I've got a couple of 3080 GPUs, which are a little bit long in the tooth, may work, but I think the extent to which some of the YouTubes sell self-hosting your AI models is a smidge overblown. You can do it, but you're really constrained by the amount of VRAM and that you can, and the size of models you can run. And sometimes there's just no substitute for sending it out to GPT.
One of the things I wanted to mention really quickly, though, is next Tuesday on the Linux Cast podcast, we have Raid Owl as our co-host, and he's built his own AI. It's about a $6,500 self-hosted AI engine, and I'm going to ask him a lot of questions.
It's going to be a good episode. I'm quite thrilled to have him on. It's going to be fun. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, just 65,000. Yeah, my question is, don't you hit the limit of requests with your search engine? Because I still have search, but I hit the limit, so I stopped using it. My instance is there, but I stopped using it.
Yeah, I've never hit a limit ever using Circs. Have you, Drew?
No, sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. Sorry, I shouldn't talk into my hat. Yeah, I haven't ever seen a limit ever on Circs. It even using start page is kind of similar, only it's not self-hosted. It's also kind of a front end just for Google, and I used that for a couple of years. I never saw a limit on that either, and I search all the time. And I actually set up for my mom, and she goes to websites by searching. She has no clue what a URL is, so if she needs to go to Facebook, she just types Facebook. It takes her to start page, and she can go right. And I mean, so. And I mean, she's never called me and said, man, I reached a limit. So I don't know what's going on there. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I might update I think it's the other container. I might add, let's see if the new versions I'm not hitting. So
hold on a second. Are you hosting regular Circs, or you're hosting the NG, the Circs NG? Yeah.
NG.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I just, this is strange because I thought I wouldn't say this, but I'm using DataCo. It's so great nowadays. For me, at least, for my kind of searching, it's so great.
Sorry, let me ask one more question about Mike's setup. Are you using a Docker container, using TrueNAS scale? How are you actually hosting?
I have a VPS and only node, $5 one with Docker, and I use Search NG. I have Nextcloud and Vault.
So you're using a Docker container.
Have you updated? Because it updates all the time on my TrueNAS, all the time.
I don't like automatic updates, so I don't remember the last time I pulled the container. I can do it now.
Okay, just curious. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll check now.
Maybe that's something we should talk about later, is automatic updates, because I love automatic updates. When it comes to Docker containers, I have Watchtower installed, and it just updates all of my stuff. I don't care if anything breaks. I'm much too lazy to actually do the updates. Gnome, go ahead.
I just had a question with your Circs NG. Did you leave the default providers, or did you go in and customize your search engine and tell it to use extra stuff?
So for the regular search results, I've done a little bit of customization. I've taken out some Bing stuff.
Yeah.
I've taken out some of the kind of the esoteric search engines, because usually that just ends up with crap. But I've weighted up, I should say, so that I get the best results from Google and Brave. Both of those kind of filter to the top. I have not done much to the image stuff, just because the UI is never very good with the Circs images stuff, and I find myself just going to Google anyways when I need to search for an image. And my number one use case for searching for an image is almost universally having to find one that has no background. And on Google, you can search for transparent images. On search, you can't. So that usually I just skip search altogether and just go to Google when I know I need to use the images. But yeah, I've done some tweaking when it comes to the main feed, and it's usually pretty good. Mike, you mentioned that you use DuckDuckGo. I used it for ages and I hated it. I could not stand that thing. It was really, really bad. And I'm not sure if I was just doing something wrong, but I found myself using the bang all the time, the G bang, to get to Google all the time with DuckDuckGo. Then I might as well just use Google, So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, same here. But it's that this Gemini resource keeps popping up in Google. I don't want to use Google, but I have to because of my job. So, and it's so annoying, this Gemini stuff. So I thought, let's try Brave and let's try DataCo again. So yeah, I don't know. We've been there for 3 months and loving it. Better than the others. I mean, not loving it, but better than the others for me.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are. I don't remember what the name is because of course I don't. But there's one now that's like a paid search engine. It's like not sure what it's called. But anyways,
Hagi.
yeah, something like that. And there might be another one that's like starts with an N or something. But a lot of people are like paying for it now because it supposedly makes them feel like they have more of a control over the model or whatever because they're not getting advertised to. It's more supposed to be more organic. I'm not sure about that whole model thing. Like I'd much rather self-host and hope that as time goes on, Cirx gets better. And I think it has got. When I first started using Cirx, it wasn't. It was okay, but it wasn't as good as it is now. Now it's actually pretty good. And the amount of control you have on where you get stuff from, it's really good. So, Drew, go ahead. No, you got unmute yourself, bud.
Sorry, I didn't want to lead us too far down the search path, but
That's fine.
Yeah, one of the things that I find really useful is kind of using what you were talking about as far as shortcuts, Matt. Like either the bang or like I use like I use like NeoVim type keyword. So :GI space is Google Images and :GN is Google News and stuff like that. And I find myself using :GM or Google Maps quite a bit in the Omnibar as well. So there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of like customize your search because you don't necessarily want to go all the time to like the Google homepage to get a search when it's so heavily AI and advertising, slanted. So you can definitely, even if you want, you can say, go to the Google web. It's not necessarily the homepage, but they actually still have one where it's not completely like advertising and stuff like that. So there's definitely ways to help your search be more streamlined.
So one of the reasons why I love Vivaldi, and I know, but it has the ability to set 100% custom key bindings for anything, and it has basically like a K-runner style pop-up that'll come up with a key binding. So I also use something called VimMC on there, and I can bring that up with a key binding. And if I hit a certain key binding, I hit Control and then G, it will take me to a Google search just in the Vim like bar or whatever, and I can hit another one, Control U, and it will, or I guess it's Alt U, and it will take me to the image search. And so it's kind of like what you have set up, Drew, and it's really cool. And I can also set up I can set up chains of actions within Vivaldi, so I can do one thing and then another thing, and a lot of times that will save me some searching as well. So if I need to go to one place and then immediately go to another one, it's really nice. But this was not a Vivaldi love fest for Matt, so we'll just move away from that. So my next question is, when you guys were first setting up your home lab, whether you're someone who has a whole bunch of dedicated hardware or you're just running it on, a single container of Plex or whatever, when you were initially making the decision to go this way, what caused you to make the jump into self-hosting? So we talked about it a little bit earlier about the whole degoogling yourself. But for me personally, I wanted to eliminate as many streaming services as possible. Now, I have not been as successful at that as I wanted to be, simply because my music library is garbage and needs to be redone. But it's kept it front of mind for me. So that's my next question. What caused you to finally jump into self-hosting your home labbing? Who wants to go first? Get on, go ahead.
I guess just being in charge of your own data, like being like physical. You can unplug it and go cold storage and air gap it if you want to. There's and there, if you've already got, like, I started with a Raspberry Pi 4 doing little side projects like a Quassel IRC client or server and whatnot. If you've already got the hardware kind of just laying around like that, and you have either a dynamic DNS or a static IP, then there's not too many more steps to it to just get in there, and just got to connect the dots, really.
Greg, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah. So way back in the dark ages, I worked for an internet service provider. So I kind of like self-hosted my own email back when you could do that. It was a little bit challenging, and then I was out of the game, as they say, for a long time, and just sort of an appliance user, a normie for quite a while. And my internet broke. And I realized what it was like the crappy little router I had. And I thought, well, I used to use MikroTiks back in the day, so let me check into one of those. And because what happened was when I bypassed my crappy little router, I was like, oh, I do have gigabit Ethernet. And so then I was like, well, I better get a decent router. And then I started Googling, because I hadn't been like around for a while in the scene, as it were. And I found all these YouTube channels, and everybody started talking about home lab, and how to put in the best home internet. Basically, that Google search got me down the rabbit hole, or many, many rabbit holes. And I think the first thing was Nextcloud that I wanted to try, which was a bit of a lift for my first thing back after a while, but it was worth it. And, from that point, when I realized I didn't have to be dependent on, I guess data sovereignty was something I kind of ran into out there. And I thought, you know what, that really, that resonated with me. So I wanted to keep going down that path.
Yeah, I think actually, Drew, go ahead.
No, I was about to say, use the digital sovereignty kind of explanation as well. I don't know, when you're at some point and you recognize how reliant you are on one corporation, that's a little scary to me. How and the fact that and because people are going to say, yeah, but it's free. Is it though? Because you and all of your data and everything about you is being tracked. And so for you to like give up control over all of that is way too much for me. And that's what kind of like prompted me to go through this kind of process of finding something else. I mean, it's funny because I'm not sure what you guys are using in terms of like email, but Matt and I both use like Proton Mail. And one of the things that's very interesting about it is they're actually changing the rules in Switzerland. And because of that, Proton is right now figuring out where they're going to go in terms of like servers. And Norway is, because of its privacy policies, is going to be something that they are looking at heavily. And with the idea also they have to maintain some level of cost effectiveness as well. So it's an interesting time, especially with how much AI and all of and these massive companies are in our lives.
Yeah. I think that the idea of owning your own data is one of the biggest reasons a lot of people get started with home lab. I'm not. It'd be interesting to see how well that works. Like, because I know that it was. I mean, the streaming thing was the biggest reason because I wanted to save money. But privacy was definitely one of the things that I kind of got into as I delved down to the rabbit hole. But I don't know how successful I've actually been because I still have a YouTube channel. I still have a Google account. I still have an Android phone, and it's straight up Android. It's not like a ROM or anything. It's straight up has Google Play services and everything on it. I still have a Gmail account because you have to have one. Um, uh, I still use Google Docs for work. I use I have an iPad, so Apple has all of my data. I have I'm sure. Actually, I know for sure I have a MX Master 3 from Logitech here. In order to use that well on the Mac that I, for whatever reason, had to buy DaVinci Resolve, I had to sign in to get the driver. I had to create an account to get the driver for the MX Master 3 for it to work on the Mac. It's just the dumbest thing ever. But so Logitech has all my information. So I got into home labbing hoping to, be more private, but I'm not sure that despite the fact that I self-host, or at one point self-hosted Nextcloud, I have a whole bunch of sync thing stuff going on, so I can sync all of my photos to all of my devices, and I use Borg to back up to a company that I trust that's not going to sell all of the data that they own. I have all this stuff, but still, I don't feel like I've done very well in terms of the whole privacy thing. So I'd be interested to see what the rest of you guys have, if you feel like you've actually become more private by self-hosting. Go ahead. I don't know if that was what you're going to answer, but you can still talk.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, as far as the data privacy goes, Greg mentioned mail hosting earlier. I've gone as far as I host my own mail server. I have my own email. I just use Thunderbird to check it. So yeah, I'm just I use Nextcloud to back up all my data and keep my notes. I use my own email service. I'm basically as de-Googled as you can get. I use LibreWolf as a browser. I still have an Android phone, mind you, but I'm pretty de-Googled as far as services go.
Yeah, I wish I were. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the main is the email. I started because every time I went to Gmail, all I was receiving mail from everywhere. You sign up or multiple. So, and always then maybe I remove my account, but I still receiving marketing email from there. So and then I went to self-host my email, and now I have like 300 alias. Every site I sign up is different alias, and then I funnel that to an account, which is, for example, online accounts on social media. So Reddit, Facebook, Instagram. So that goes alias that goes to social media, so and so forth. So yeah.
Yeah, the whole alias thing is one of the reasons why I really like Proton, and Drew got me onto this. Being able to, when you sign up for an account, it'll just say, "Hey, would you like to hide your email?" and it just signs you up. My biggest issue with it is I feel like now I'm stuck with Proton. I don't know that I'll ever be able to leave because I have every service that I have, I've transferred over to an alias that Proton controls. And if I were to ever decide I'm going to go to Fastmail or something else, I'm not planning on it, but I've had it in the back of my mind that if I ever want to leave, it'd be really hard to pry myself out of the Proton ecosystem. And Drew, we talked about two-factor authentication and how awesome the ability to enter a code straight from the Proton browser extension is. I'm not at all comfortable with all my 2FA being in the same place as my passwords. So I was thinking about moving them out, but that feature of having the ability to fill directly from the browser, not having to go to your phone or go to a third-party app, it's killer. So I know this is a really weird comparison, but Proton's kind of like the Apple of the world, and a little less evil probably, and more privacy focused, and I trust them more. But once you get invested into the ecosystem, it's really, really hard. And those aliases is probably the first thing that I got into that kind of made me feel that I was a part of that, and was less possible for me to actually remove myself. Promise Unix, go ahead. And we can't hear you.
Every time this happens, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. I got into self-hosting because I wanted a media server. I'm old school, and that's all I wanted. I had Kodi back in the day, way back in the day, and I realized internet sucked, and it was easier just to have that movie on my server. Of course, I moved a long way. I was going to say I've completely de-Googled myself except for work, but then I realized you were talking about the Proton thing and having to move. So much of my shit's tied to my Google account that I don't even know how to get out of it, to be totally honest with you. That's something my plan for 2026 was to work on, was to get all of my accounts. It's so stupid. I mean, I drink too much. So it's really easy when you want to get into something and check out something really good. Sign in with Google. It's half a second, right? So
Yeah.
that's what got me. But other than that, I mean, I use Google for work, and everything's on my own server now. So I mean, I don't like everything. I don't even know how many services I run, but yeah. But I got into it because I wanted movies on my home server, and that was the easiest way, and to be able to stream in all my different devices. That's what got me into it. So
Do you use Plex or Jellyfin?
oh, Jellyfin. Plex is shit. I used to use Plex, but Jellyfin all the way.
Yeah.
I've never had an issue with it. So
I was on Plex for quite a long time. I have a lifetime subscription. I paid more for it than basically everybody else, but they said they were going to double it, so I hurried up and bought one. And you know, it was fine, but it continually got worse and worse. Like every time I went there was something new in the dashboard that I don't want there. Like I don't need their free channels. I don't need their movies with ads. So eventually I'm completely on Jellyfin now. And the cool thing is, when I tried it the last time, I tried it in a Proxmox VM, which wasn't a good idea because there was no transcoding whatsoever with the way that I had it set up. But now that I'm on bare hardware, it can actually use the GPU for transcoding, and it's a lot faster. It works really, really well. My music collection is still garbage. I still need to fix it. So I'm still subscribing to Apple Music, but yeah.
okay, I guess on that point, I guess I'm one of them guys that YouTube's a song I want to listen to in the morning, and then YouTube generates that playlist for you, and I just go with it most of the day. So I guess I'm stuck on the YouTube, but I think that's a little bit different than what we're talking about.
I guess I do the same. I'm guilty.
Yeah.
So I used to do that in some ways, but I downloaded an app or a browser extension called Control Panel for YouTube, and because I was using YouTube crazy amounts, I have ADD up the wazoo. So oftentimes I'm doing 6 things at a time. I'm reading a book. I'm editing for work. I have a YouTube video up in one monitor. There's a reason why I have 4 monitors, and I also have a tracker in my browser that tells me how long per day I spend on a website. And sometimes I was spending 8 or 9 hours on YouTube. Most of that was in the background with music, right? So I've downloaded this control panel for YouTube, and it removes the mixes from the stream. It removes shorts, so I can't get to short. Well, I can get to them, but it requires effort. It makes the YouTube UI just way, way better. And I found it hasn't cut down my YouTube watching completely. I still go and check out my subscriptions, but because now the subscription page is my main feed, I mostly pay attention to the people I subscribe to instead of getting into a rabbit hole of people I don't subscribe to. So that's really helped me out. I won't say a lot, but a little bit. I use YouTube a little bit less. But yeah, the music thing is always going to be a big problem with me because I enjoy finding new music, and it's really hard to find new music in any way naturally anymore. Like you used to be able to go into the car and turn on the FM radio, and you get your favorite 93.7 rock station. They still have that, but it's like 95% advertising now, and the other 5% is the disc jockey making some awesome jokes. So it's not, they don't play very much music, is what I'm trying to say. So it's really hard for me to find music, and unfortunately, the streaming services tend to do that really well. Greg, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, Matt, I just wanted to say thanks for turning me on to Vivaldi, because it is a really cool browser.
Right.
It's almost feature overload, but I'm learning to tame it. So if you do more videos on how to wrangle your Vivaldi, that would be helpful. I've heard good things about Proton Mail, and it sounds like some of you guys like to use it. I was thinking about Fast Mail, because I've seen it. Has anybody heard, good, bad, or otherwise, about that? It seems to be similar price point, similar concept, just not, over in Europe, I guess. Maybe it is. I don't know. But anyway, just any recommendations?
So I've been told, but I don't know for sure, because you can't really trust everybody telling you. But I've been told that Fastmail doesn't support IMAP, which is when I was vaguely in my mind thinking about switching away from Proton. One of the reasons why is because I really missed native email. I can't stand webmail like at all. I'm suffering through it, but I wanted to go back to using Thunderbird and a native mail app on my phone. But I was told that they support some alternative protocol for email, and most clients don't support it. So that's the only thing I really know about Fastmail, unfortunately. Maybe somebody else knows.
That would be a deal breaker, because nothing kills me more than when there's a time-tested protocol like IMAP and they bypass it for some reason.
Well, then you probably wouldn't like Proton, because Proton you could use a bridge like on your Linux PC, but it's really hard to get it on a mobile phone in order to work with native email. Now, Proton does support IMAP in some ways, and it would be fine, but it would kind of bypass the reason to use Proton, which is the end-to-end encryption. So, Drew, go ahead.
So I have a question to you, Matt. What was the thing that you just said about YouTube? Like a front end?
All right, so it's a browser extension. I believe it's for Chrome and Firefox. It's everywhere. It's called Control Panel for YouTube, and it basically allows you to it blocks ads. I'm not sure how well it does that. I have premium, so I don't know how well it works. It allows you to hide sponsored videos and promos. It allows you to hide members only videos. It allows you to change the UI so that it's more condensed and gets rid of all the cruft and stuff. It allows you to remove shorts and the multiplayer button, autoplay on videos. So if you go to a YouTube video, a lot of times in like a new tab, and most browsers, it'll just play in the background, and that's horrible. So this
is it free? Is it free?
Yeah, 100% free. Yeah, don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure it's open source even. So, yeah, it's pretty good. I cannot tell you where I found it. Somebody in a YouTube video somewhere mentioned it. So,
I was curious. I was just like, when you were talking about it, I was like, I wonder if you used, because I would imagine you probably use Fresh RSS at some point with just having your subscriptions and everything like that, and it kind of like tells you when somebody that you subscribe to has a new vid.
Yeah, I do have all of my subscriptions in a RSS feed, but the problem is I subscribe to like 1,500 channels, and I just can't keep track of it. So it's just easier for me to go to the subscribe page and see what's recent. You know what I mean? I still, every once in a while, I'll take a glance at the RSS feeds, but I'm on YouTube anyway, so it's just kind of there. The plugin allows me to at least make sure that I'm on the subscriptions page instead of on the main algorithm page. So it's working somewhat. I'm probably about down 20% from my viewership overall, which is a significant amount considering how much I was on there. Because, like I said, the biggest part I was using was the mixes for songs. That's completely gone. Now I just use Apple Music for everything, which is, I do have the Jellyfin TUI on my PC here, so I've been using that for music and been trying to slowly get my local hosted music up to snuff, but that's going to take probably the rest of my life. I'm just guessing, and maybe beyond. My children will probably still trying to get all the metadata correct. Good luck to them. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make a joke how you were talking about listening to the FM radio. I remember, back when I was a kid, I'd do like the new rock, the new rock. Now I find myself rolling back with all the classic rock because that's really the only good music's at.
Yeah, as you get older, your music becomes classic.
Yes.
That's something that the older generation doesn't tell you, and they should.
Yeah.
Because I was big into country for a while, and all of the country music that I listened to in the early '90s, that's classic country. It's like, no, classic country's Hank Williams, guys. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So it's
Not Alan Jackson.
right. Yeah, it's exactly like they consider Alan Jackson classic country, and it's just really stupid. And like now Metallica is classic rock. You're like come on, Metallica was still touring in like the early 2000s. They can't be
Right,
classic yet.
exactly.
So it's just when you get older, your stuff just gets older. Like now POD is considered like a classic rock band. Oh, good lord. All right, Promised Unix, go ahead. And we can't hear you again.
It's because I'm being overly cautious. That FM radio thing, it's funny because I'm in Canada and we have our Canadian radio stations, but of course they're all owned by some conglomerate. Like, no, there's no independent radio stations anymore. And we get commercials. You mentioned 90% commercials that at the end of it says not available in Canada. They just wasted 40 seconds of my life to pitch something to me that I can't even buy, which cracks my ass up. And Greg had mentioned the Vivaldi overload. I tried Vivaldi because of Matt, and I liked it. It's cool. There's a lot of crap there. If anybody's ever wants to see like a really lightweight that I've never had a problem with browser, try Helium. It's pretty cool, really cool. And Matt, if you need a NixOS config for it, I'd be more than happy to send it to you.
I don't need one because I'm not leaving Vivaldi, man. You'll pry Vivaldi out of my cold dead fingers.
Okay, I thought I'd offer.
Workspaces.
That's what he said about Qtile. I'm just saying.
That's true. That is true. That is actually the exact words. I'm pretty sure.
You wouldn't like Helium because it's super lightweight, but it's exactly what I need. And I run a lot of things in I use Guacamole a lot and it's just such a beautiful lightweight browser, and it just works great, and it's freaking fast, man. It's faster than Vivaldi by a ton. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there.
So okay, so on the fast thing, people always say like this thing or that thing is fast, and what they're saying is like, yeah, it's like people who go through and spend 40 actually D-Dubs made fun of me for this one night. I was messaging him telling him that I was going to try to figure out why my boot up time was so slow, and he says, well, you're gonna spend 8 hours to gain 5 seconds of boot time. And yeah, that's absolutely the case in a lot of the browser stuff. And with when you say a fast browser, I'm never going to notice that, really. Like it could be like 5 milliseconds. I'm not going to notice. I'm just not that observant when it comes to how fast the pages load.
I noticed it in YouTube because when I load up Vivaldi, I think because of the ad blocking, it says it spins for a little while and says, hey, are you experiencing a hesitation? Do you want to know why? I never click why. I don't know why. I don't get that in Helium.
Yeah,
so
maybe,
but it's a pretty big. It's I think it's actually alpha, but it's got a lot of promise. I just want to throw it out there because it is a. Hey, do you know what? Try everything once.
Well, I know Drew's swearing by it now. He's like, he talks about.
I did a video on it.
Yeah,
I did a video on it.
Did you do a video on Helium?
Yep.
I missed it. Shit. Okay.
You got to hit that notification button on his channel, so you can get your notifications, or subscribe to his RSS feed. He doesn't care.
Smash that like.
Yeah, smash the like button. Yeah, I will try Helium, but I guarantee I'm not going to switch away from Vivaldi. It's just not going to happen. I really, really like being able to customize my stuff, and right now I have like the tab bar at the bottom and the address bar at the top, and tomorrow I can have that switch to something completely different. That's why Florp was really interesting to me. If Florp had workspaces in a certain way where it actually would work as a workspace, so that all the workspaces were not window specific, but instead would float, could go to different windows, I would definitely I'd at least consider using Florp, because that was as close to Vivaldi as I've ever come. Zen has the exact same problem with the workspaces though, so. for whatever reason, they don't want to do it the right way. Mike, go ahead. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Yes, I, I was about to suggest the same floor. Thank you. I don't know how to pronounce that project, but I'm using it. It's like what Mozilla should be, what Firefox should be like. I think
Oh, you're talking
they
about
are great.
Florp. You're talking about Florp.
Floor,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I wanted to make another uh, email provider. I was checking a few years ago. It was mailbox.org. So if I had to choose, I think I will go with them based on my research 3 years ago
For email.
for email. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
When I was doing the whole searching for what the next provider was, I knew Drew was on Proton, so I knew that was like one of the options. But I was on Zoho for about 6 months, and Zoho's like Zoho's a paid email, and like I wanted a paid email because I wanted to avoid being the product, right? Zoho is like $1 for 12 months. It's obnoxiously cheap. But they're kind of like the Vivaldi of mail hosts. They have all the features. You know, they have documents and stuff. They're really trying to be Google, and it was just way too much stuff for me. And a lot of this stuff was just you can't really. It's kind of in your face. They have like 4 different dashboards for your account, and so you have to manage things. You know, in one dashboard you can manage your domain, and another dashboard you manage your mail account and all that stuff. It was not a great experience. That's why I ended up using Proton, and in the end, it's such a cohesive experience. Everything is built in. It feels like it's all meant to work together. It's just the biggest complaint I have is the lack of a Linux client for the Proton drive. If they fix that, it'll be great. But I actually don't think that they'll ever have a client for Proton drive on Linux. I don't know why. There has to be something there. I think Drew and I will think it's the encryption, but
there is well, actually, let me go look and make sure I know what the heck I'm talking about. But I think actually the newest version of rclone has a Proton drive, has a config for Proton drive.
Oh, really?
So,
yeah, you'll have to
let me verify that.
Cool. Chef Goldblum. Okay. That's great.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, Nat, buddy, you cursed me, man. Introducing me to Vivaldi browser. I was looking for a long time, and I got hooked. And I'm like, oh, I got addicted to the side paneling, because for work, like I do a lot of multitasking, and it's just like I do cybersecurity, so it's like it's great. I can pull up like my Palo Alto filtering on one side and have whatever else going on the other side. And I ended up switching over to Edge for work only because we're a Microsoft shop, so like everything just kind of integrates better with Edge. However, Vivaldi I've been using as my daily driver for I don't know 4 years now, and I was running into an issue where the for whatever reason side paneling was freezing, it was crashing, so I temporarily went over to Brave, but they don't have true side paneling. It's like you just click on, it's basically another shortcut. It's another place for a shortcut. So I was kind of bothering them on their GitHub for a while, trying to see if they'd introduce that. But I eventually switched back to Vivaldi because they did some sort of update, and I don't know if it was a personal thing, but it was every time I tried to open up my IP cameras, it would just crash on me.
When you were using Vivaldi, were you using a native package on your operating system, or were you using a container?
It was a Flatpak.
Yeah, sometimes, not always, but sometimes switching to the alternative to a native package will work, or if you're on a native package, switching to the Flatpak, because sometimes those, for whatever reason, they use a different profile and it will solve your problem. Not always, sometimes. Another thing, if it just ended up happening again, Florp does have the ability to create side panels. It's not one-to-one with Vivaldi, but they have some of the features to create. Like if you want to create a web side panel and dock it onto the side, you can do that.
I did mess around with Florp and I think Fire Dragon, the one that comes packaged in
Garuda.
Yeah, and it was cool, but unfortunately, and by design probably, syncing's not really an option there. So for me that's important because I use Vivaldi across multiple devices, so it's just like something I couldn't lose. As a quick aside, actually, you're talking about FM radio, and I had the opportunity, I guess, depending on how you look at it, to be born kind of right in the middle of like before the internet, and then now, you know, I'm in my late 30s, so now like I've kind of been here for most of that, or for all of that, I should say. And sorry, I lost my thought. Oh yeah, so like it's been a while since I hadn't really had tech like kind of all around me. Anyway, the other day I'm trying to get off of iCloud and Apple. I have an iPhone. I'm trying to like find a good open source alternative. Anyway, I was archiving my iMessages to get them off of my iCloud. So my phone was kind of tied to my laptop, and I was doing that backup. I'm like, oh man, I gotta run out. I gotta go take care of something. So, you know, I get my car. Usually, you have like the CarPlay or the Android. You know, like,
Mhm.
I had nothing. I'm like, oh, what do I do? You know, I put the FM radio on for the first time in years. I felt so lost. You know.
So yeah, I had a similar experience where for whatever reason I tuned into FM radio while I was on the car, and so back in 8th grade, which keep in mind was 28 years ago or some silly nonsense like that. Like I'm 40 years old, so it's been a while since I was in 8th grade. But in 8th grade, we had a career class, and during one of the career visits, we had a guy named Mojo. Typical, you know, disc jockey. He was Mojo in the morning, right? And he came to visit and talk about, you know, being in a radio. I mean, in radio and being that, right? I turned on the radio probably like 3 or 4 months ago, like randomly in the car. That guy who has to be in his 70s by now is still Mojo in the morning on the same radio station. Just the thing is, he doesn't play music anymore. Like they don't play hardly any music anymore. So I was astonished that that guy's still around. Like he was. I mean, he was this tattooed like mid 90s tattooed. You know, has all the piercings and stuff like that. I don't want to know what he looks like now because none of that stuff ages well. But yeah, the guy's still around. It's crazy. Drew, go ahead.
It was just a follow up that says that I was going to tell you that the Proton Drive does have on our clone. There is a beta backend for Proton Drive, so I will test that out and
cool.
let you know.
That's awesome because that's my because it's one of the reasons. It's not the only reason I had to set up rsync, or not rsync, but a sync thing. But one of the things that I would have been a lot easier is if I'd had a Proton Drive, because a lot of my images, they all uploaded to Proton. It's like then I have to go to the browser to actually download them, and that was always a pain in the rear. So if that worked, that'd be pretty cool. So all right, so let's move on to the next question. So I have to ask this question. It seems stupid, but if you were to argue for it, what is the best distro for a home lab? Now, Drew, you don't get to talk anymore. We know what you say, but and it's the right answer. But we need to talk about why. Promised Unix, go ahead. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, bud. You're still muted. It's just like.
Well, I hit the mute on my mic. I probably muted.
Yeah, now you're muted. Now? Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, Jesus Christ. Nix OS. That's it. End of story. I can spin up anything I want to anywhere without doing anything, and it's stable as fuck if you stay on the stable channel. So, yep, Nix OS.
I saw Drew's face when you said end of story. He was like, nah, it's not the end of the story. Greg, go ahead.
I'm sure Drew will agree, but I feel like Debian is the perfect underlying OS for a home lab because it's stable and has what you need. And if you want to get fancy, that's what QEMU, for me anyway, the QEMU KVM Vert Manager virtualization is for. You can do all your fancy stuff in a virtual machine. And if you can manage it, I have put in a vote for ZFS boot menu and ZFS on root, so you can roll back. That has saved my butt more than a few times when I wasn't trying to keep Debian stable, and I screwed something up, and I was just able to roll back to the last hourly snapshot and get back up and running without losing my entire setup.
Yeah, I will say Butterfest for me though. It's just a little bit easier for me to set up. And there are tons of awesome tutorials over there on Just a Guy Linux. So go check that out. Yeah, still the best thing ever. Just Drew installs Linux or Debian and he goes through the Butterfest stuff. I'll watch that stuff on repeat. It's like crack for me. I don't know why. Go ahead.
I'm going to kind of jump on the bandwagon as well and say Debian, but with a twist. I'm going to have to go with the Proxmox flavor because you can install Debian containers and run like 15 at once. So yeah, I'm going to go with the flavor and say Proxmox.
Okay. D-Dubs, go ahead. Don't forget to unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah, I was having trouble getting to it. I'm actually going to join the group and say Debian. Yes, for Proxmox as well, but excuse me, I've got some backup servers and other things, and you kind of just set them, and then you kind of forget them for the most part. Yeah, there's updates, but unless you're crazy and running SID or something, or maybe testing, you're not going to get a ton like you will every day with say Arch or NixOS unstable. So yeah, I mean that's kind of my choice. And then when you go above a home lab, I mean it's only because I recently did an Ubuntu server. That's pretty nice what they package it with out of the box. I like it better than RHEL or Oracle. I was very surprised at what you could just do on the fly. So yeah, Debian for the win.
Yeah, I'm with you guys on the whole Debian thing. I have Debian on my file server. I have Ubuntu on my home lab. The reason why I chose Ubuntu for the home lab was simply because of snaps. I know for years we've given snaps a lot of shit, but they've gotten a lot better. And because it's Ubuntu, they've tied it in so well. They still do some stupid crap that I hate with the whole loopback devices, and the snap folder's still there in the home directory. You still have to see it. It is hidden now, which is good. But outside of that, snaps has just gotten they were built for a server, and during the install process, they have all these like snaps that you can just install and just have set up. It's the easiest way to install Nextcloud, like ever. Like you just hit the button, it installs Nextcloud. It's way easier than Docker, and Docker's actually pretty easy, but this is better. DW, you have something to say? I'm sorry, you were unmuted. I thought you were going to continue. Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say Debian as well. And Debian over Proton, you can install Proton after on Debian because you can encrypt your disk very easy when you do the installation of Debian. You do the disk encryption, and then you don't worry. But with Proton, I have to. It's not possible easy way.
Yeah. Before we move on, the Link Arzu in the chat left a super chat. Thank you for the super chat. He says a nice community around your channel, Matt. I agree. My community is the best community. So I will say thank you for that, and thank you and all that stuff. So Drew, go ahead.
Link Arzu is just a suck up. That's all I'm going to say about that. Huh?
He keeps sending me $1.99 and says the nicest things. He's just
as far as
nice
Debian guy. And so, of course, naturally, I was always curious as to how Proxmox Proxmox 9 came out with Debian 13 before Debian 13 even got was out. But as far as some of the server stuff that we've done with the Linux cast is all on Ubuntu servers. And there's a reason why it's really easy with snaps, like Matt was just describing. Now we haven't used all of it, but like even just installing like SSL using a snap package is super, super easy. But we're hosting Git.the Linux cast. So like our own Git server for Matt's notes and things like that, as well as a SFTP server as well. And all of that stuff is running on Ubuntu server. And so I'm going to give it a +1. Ubuntu server is actually very, very good.
One of the things I really like about it, just as an alternative to Debian, is just because you do get a few more updates. It's not Arch, like you're not gonna get them every day, but you get a few more updates. So at least it feels like it's making, it's keeping up to date. Now, Debian, you do get a few updates as well. It's really cool on the file server just to let that go 4 months without an update. Go there, do sudo apt update upgrade and thing, and you have 5 updates. You know what I mean? Like, it's great. The Ubuntu one, I want to make it. It's more of a mental thing for me. It's like I want to make it. I want it to feel like it's more up to date, even if it's not not really needed. It's not the only reason, but it's still one of the things that I kind of had in mind. Gnome, go ahead.
You were saying how easy it was to install Nextcloud with a snap, and I'm not sure if I ever said thank you to D-Dubs or not, but he recommended a thing called Turnkey Linux, and they have scripts for Proxmox that is basically a one-click or a one-command install. You just wget the script and /, and it installs whatever service you need in that container. It's pretty. Thank you, D-Dubs, for pointing that out. I'm not sure if I ever said that.
It's amazing how many of us are have to say thank you to D-Dubs. He's like the go-to Linux guy. I tried those scripts with Jellyfin. I didn't have success with it. For whatever reason, it would not build. I'm sure I was just doing something wrong. But yeah, the fact that they do exist is great. And in some ways, I do miss Proxmox. I always like the idea that I had that capability at hand. But also, it just feels like for me, with the way I have, just like everything I have is a Docker container. I don't need that in a VM as well. It's just like everything's a Docker container. If it can be Dockerized, I Dockerize it. And I've gotten really good at Docker Compose. Even things that don't come with their own Docker Compose file, I can go make a Docker Compose for now. I've gotten really good at figuring out the whole ports thing. It took me a stupidly long time to figure out ports. Like, you can't use the same ports, man, on the host machine. You just can't do it. But it took me a long time to figure that out. And on my previous iteration of my home lab, I still use Portainer, but I don't use Portainer to manage anything more. Now it's just more like kind of a dashboard. But before, I managed all my Docker containers in Portainer. And one of my biggest downfalls was that I didn't have a good list of the ports that I'd used. And that was my downfall for a lot of installs of Docker containers, because it was a lot of them used like 8080 or whatever, and you kind of have to change those host port numbers. And I'd have to always go back to my list of containers to search through what ports I actually had available. Whereas now I have this Docker Compose file. I can just I'm in Vim, I can do / the number and see if there's an iteration there that I need to change. So yeah, I really do enjoy just Docker containers, and it just makes it much easier for me. I know a lot of people avoid Docker because of the there's some fuzziness around it being open source or something. I'm not actually up onto that. I don't really care all that much. It works phenomenally well. Promix Unix, go ahead. Can't hear you, bud.
Do you want some not scripts? Do you want to learn how to put your Docker containers into a NixOS config?
No.
Oh.
No, because I'm not running any of the Docker containers on NixOS. I'm running them on Ubuntu. And I don't really have.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not really interested. The idea of NixOS on a server is interesting, but not interesting enough for me to actually switch. And one of the reasons why is just because I feel like like I have my setup on NixOS. I'm pretty proud of it. I have a Flake. I'm into home. I'm dipping my toes into Home Manager. I mean, I'm like a kid trying to go into Lake Superior for the first time. Like, that shit is cold and it's July. It doesn't matter. I'm from Michigan, guys.
I was just gonna say, are you from Michigan?
I am from Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you're from Michigan, you know exactly how cold Lake Superior is. But anyways, that's how I'm with Home Manager. I'm very proud of my setup right now. It's not overly complicated like some of you guys got, but it's very nice. But it would be so different on a server, and I don't know. I haven't quite got comfortable with managing 2 different hosts in my configuration file yet. Like, I have Ares and I have a Vulkan one, but the Vulkan one just has languished into it's not anywhere near as loved as the main one that I use. And I don't know that I would have any better look if I had another one that I had to work on. The idea is good.
Honestly, my experience was the exact same with Nix. Like, you're actually talking about my evolution with it. I've just been doing it for longer than you, but which is cool. Like, but I understand exactly what you're saying about how you just kind of like slowly build and slowly build and slowly build, and you kind of get more comfortable with stuff, and then all of a sudden something clicks, and it's like, wow. And then you know more. But if you don't want to know more, that's cool. But yeah, that experience is like that's why I'm in love with Nick still, because I'm still learning every single day. And I don't think it's the best. I think it's the best, but I think server Debian, to be totally honest with you, like, how could you ever argue with that? And I would use Nix in a home lab, but in an environment where it mattered, I think I would use Debian. So,
So
I should have another beer.
Yeah, I've been using NixOS now for 105 days or something like that. I'm over 100 days now. I haven't had the click yet. I haven't had the snap like, oh my God, this thing is awesome yet. It's not bad. It's really good. It's very, very stable. I haven't had very many problems with it. I've enjoyed troubleshooting what problems I've had with it. It's been fun. I had fun setting up a flake. I've had fun installing programs and discovering Nix shells, and I've had a good time messing around with home managers just a little bit. I have my bash configuration in there now. But if someone paid me $200 to switch tomorrow, I'd probably do it, and that's not a lot of money. So maybe eventually that number would go up, but I'm still not quite to the point where I can say, you know what, I'm in love with this thing. To me right now, it just feels like you spend an awful lot of time messing around with your configuration file, and maybe the amount of time you spend messing around with your package manager on Arch is exactly the same, and it just doesn't feel that way, but it feels like you spend a lot of time messing around with things that you don't normally mess around with on Nix, and that's fine. I enjoy it, but I haven't fallen in love with it. D-Dubs, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, a couple of things. The snap thing, just real briefly. The only thing I ever had an issue with snap is so many times they were just out of date. They were just old.
Yeah, the maintenance of them is not great at all.
Yeah, that's really the thing that bothered me. And GNOME, yeah, I think you might be talking about the helper scripts, not necessarily the turnkey, but both are very good. And Matt, on yours with the Jellyfin, it sounds like the issue I had is I had built my Jellyfin on an old version of the turnkey image, which was a very old version of Debian, and I couldn't update it anymore. But no, there's a lot of good about Nix, and it has to solve your problem for you to bother putting in the effort. And that's kind of true regardless. If Debian doesn't do what you need it to do, then you've got to go someplace else. Wherever that is. For me, NixOS solves so many problems that I end up saving time. And that's just me. Because I have so many systems, and I play around with them, and they have different GUIs, and like today I started playing around with the dank material shell, the dank material shell. And I was like, okay, I got it set up, boom, 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 and I have my configuration such that I could just add it in. It is now part of my config, and I only have to go to my host config file, the variables file, and enable it. That's it. I can have any host have dark material shell in a minute. If you do that if you have disparate systems, you've got to go and install the dependencies and do the fonts and I got to make sure I got quick shell, and I got to have this, got to have that. I solved it once, and now I can deploy it. For me, that's such a benefit. But that's just what I do.
Yeah.
That's not what you do. You don't have all these different, systems, and it just doesn't, It's not something you like to do. Now, what's funny though, I always thought because you like to change GUIs and you like to try this, that NixOS would actually be a very good fit.
See, my problem with it, D-dubs, is you're right that it would be pretty awesome to be able to kind of do it that way, but I have an aversion to putting any of my Hyperland stuff into Home Manager. I think if I switch themes once a day, I'd be fine. But I sometimes switch themes 10 times a day. And I do not want to rebuild Home Manager every time I want to switch to a different theme or I change a wallpaper. I don't want to do that. Now, it's actually kind of painful every time I want to add an alias to have to rebuild Home Manager just because I've added an alias to my bash RC and then I have to run, my rebuild script in order to actually get it to work, and then I also have to refresh the shell. So it's an added step. It's not that big a deal because I don't do it that often, and that's the reason why I think Home Manager is really cool. I like a lot of the stuff. I think for certain things like Bash, like Git, things that you just don't mess around with very often, it's phenomenal. Like it's a very, very good idea being able to have your Git config wherever you are and whatever. Just as an aside, can you do the same thing with SSH keys? Do you know?
Yeah, but you typically don't want to store your.
That's true because it's in Git. That's right.
Yeah. It's like yes, you can.
You can, but you don't want to. Yeah, I thought about that after I said it. It was one of those things. But
you could store public.
Yeah, that's fine. But it's like not really.
Yeah, you don't want to put your private key. I figured it out once I was there.
What I was going to say though, and I don't want to make this about NixOS, is all of the things that you talked about. There are ways to do it, to get around that. In fact, one of the things that I did for HyperPanel was I kept instead of hard read-only links, it just copied the files, and if I changed it, it actually copied it back on my next rebuild. So there are just tricks you could do it, but you have to really want to do it and want to dig into Nix to make it do what you want to do. The only reason I bring it up is for all of your objections, there is a solution, but it's not like it's in your face and there's a nice GUI to do it. So, and as far as like the wallpaper and the themings, like what I'm doing today with the dank material shell, I can theme my NixOS using Managen and wallpaper because it's built into the shell. So if you get rid of the way bar and some of the other stuff, that problem goes away as well.
Yeah, I'm not getting rid of the way bar.
I kind of wanted to make it about NixOS, but not really. But you could actually watch. You can set up your dot files exactly the way you can watch any YouTube. You don't have to Nixify your dot files. You just have to put that dot file, that dot config or whatever it is, and then just add it to your Home Manager. So you don't have to make it like the true quote unquote.
Right. I've done that with my bash, but you
still have to do a rebuild though.
Yeah, you still have to rebuild.
You still have to rebuild. Sure.
That's
but there's a way to. I know rebuilding a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he wants to literally be able to go in and just edit the file. Here's my alias and be done. So,
like I said, it wouldn't be that big of a deal if I didn't switch. And I know we're supposed to be talking about Home Lab, but the NixOS. Yeah. Then the NixOS stuff is interesting because it's kind of a lot of people do say that it's really good for servers because of the ability to multiply it on different servers very, very easily, right? And that's like the thing you want to do if you're setting that stuff up often, but also being able to maintain it that way is it is a genuine and interesting benefit to manage all of your stuff in a configuration file all in one place in one configuration language. It is nice. I'm just not. I don't know that I'm ever going to get there. Is my problem, and I'm not. There's a 50% chance right now that I'm going to use NixOS forever. I mean, I said that with OpenSUSE too. At this point, there's a lot of stuff that I really liked about OpenSUSE. I bought a sticker. Maybe eventually I'll buy myself a Nix sticker if someone actually sells those things. But at the moment, I'm having a good time with it, and there's certain aspects of it that I like. I'm just not sure. I'm much more comfortable with the traditional distro for my home lab, just because I really do just want to have it just sit there and forget about it. And if I want to update it, I can just go run sudo apt update and upgrade and have it ready to go. I don't know. Maybe eventually I'll try. So let's see if we can't get back onto a home lab a track. I do have some more questions for you guys. So, those of you who mentioned Proxmox, let's talk about Proxmox for a little while. What would you, if you were to recommend Proxmox or dissuade someone from Proxmox going forward, are the pros and cons of what you talk about if you were to discuss that with someone? And would you actually recommend, like, a brand new to home labbing person actually get into Proxmox? Who wants to go first? Anybody? All right. D-Dubs, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, my first question is, what are you trying to do with this lab? If it's, I'm running a couple of Docker containers or I'm running this, I'd say, okay, do you have a spare machine that you're really not using anyway? Then it's great, because it's very easy, for example, to, whether you're using SSDs or NVMEs or even spinning Rust, to set up things like mirrors. So your data's got one level of protection. It's something that grows. You could cluster them, have backup redundancy, whatever. So it's really based not on, is Proxmox the solution, is Proxmox the solution for what you're trying to do? If you want to experiment with distros and learn things, it's tough to beat it compared to Virt Manager or hell, VirtualBox and all those other horrible hypervisors.
It's so easy to pass through things to Proxmox. When I first started using it, passing something through was the revelation, because you can pass through your GPU if it supports it, obviously, and your motherboard supports it. It's very, very easy to do. You can pass through all of your USB things. You can pass through all of your hard drives. Whereas if you're doing that in, I'm sorry to cut you off, D-Dubs, but if you're doing that with like VirtualBox or any of the KVM stuff, it's possible to do all that stuff, but you have to deal with services, and you have to deal with all of the kerfuffle around GPU, pass through, which is just kind of a pain in the ass on regular VM stuff. Proxmox has magic for that.
Well, yeah. In fact, like you were talking about Jellyfin earlier, my Jellyfin uses my GPU, but I don't pass the GPU directly, exclusively to it. I actually use the VirGL, which, if you go to that container, it says, oh yeah, I've got a 6700 or one, or 6400 on the other one, and it transcodes it fine, but it's still available to any other VM at the same time. That's one of the magic things about Proxmox is this, and you can do it Virt Manager as well. It's not as clear.
Yeah, it's not as easy. Yep.
Yeah. And so with VirGL, I get extremely fast performance. It would be better if I had 2.5 gig or 10 gig networking. But that's kind of the magic if you want to really do something and have a responsive VM. On the top of, I run Pi-hole, and I run, all kinds of other things. Backup servers for Proxmox, things like that. It's tough to beat, and it's not difficult to use. And there's a ton of docs, and there's a ton of videos on it.
Yeah, Learn Linux TV. Like, if you guys want to actually learn Proxmox, go find Jay on Learn Linux TV. He has a whole series on Proxmox. Like, and it starts off very simple, how to install it, everything, and then it gets into high availability and all the stuff if you want to get into it. But he has a whole series. I mean, I can't. That's where I learned it. Jay's fantastic explaining how to go through and do that stuff, and it's just very easy to follow. Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say so. I have a server hosted at a data center, so I've got, it's not like a VPS, but it's like my VPS, and I have Proxmox on there, and I would say it can do that. So that's sort of like high end, and it's not even really high end because it's just me. But you could I also ran it, put it on like a Lenovo Mini Think Center, right? Like you can if you want to get into doing virtualization, Proxmox is easy. It's got the GUI. There's a ton of, as you said, if you watch Jay's videos, and you could do LXCs, you could do VMs, you could fire up one of the VMs and turn it into a Docker host. You could do Docker containers, and it's sort of a one and done easy entry point that I think you can get started quickly on minimal hardware, but the concepts and what you're doing could scale up to all sorts of stuff if you want to go that way. And if you don't want to just dive into command line right away, like you would have to do to set up, QEMU, KVM, and Vert Manager and stuff. And the pass-throughs are easy. Yeah. So if the question is, would you recommend somebody starting out try it? I absolutely would. I think Proxmox is a good way to get moving.
Yeah, when I first set it up, I never really took advantage of all the stuff as well as I should have. Like I pretty much completely ignored the LXC containers for the longest time, just because I wanted to use the VM stuff. I enjoyed the full nature of a whole distro kind of thing. It took me a while to get into them, but once you get into the idea of just having a container for every application that you have, and then you manage them that way, it's kind of nice. And the cool thing about Proxmox is, like you say, Greg, you can start off, just as a noob and be perfectly happy, like everybody did. But it can also get very complicated very fast, no matter what your needs are. You can have a whole bunch of containers, you can have multiple nodes in your cluster, you can do all this kind of stuff in order to get as complex as you want. It can manage your entire home lab, even if you get up to the whole like Techno Tim type of stuff, where he has like a whole server room kind of thing. That can be very easily managed, and you don't have to get into like Kubernetes if you don't want to. You can just do it the old fashioned way. Gnome, go ahead.
I'd have to say probably yes and no at the same time. Like if you need full virtualization, then by all means, yes, Proxmox is the way to go. It's easy to set up, like everybody said. But if all you need is like a couple Docker containers or a Nextcloud or something, I don't know. I would say maybe TrueNAS would be a good start point because it's also easy to set up.
Mm-hmm.
But Proxmox is a very solid choice.
I think the problem with TrueNAS is that you do have to have some kind of, you have to have hardware for Proxmox too. But with TrueNAS, you kind of have to have a pretty beefy system. Like it doesn't have to be like top end or whatever, but it still has to be. Proxmox or TrueNAS is meant for like multiple disks, isn't it? Maybe I'm.
I have found that when I installed Proxmox using their default ZFS file system, if I only had 16 gigs of RAM on my system using an old i7, 4th gen Intel, and that ZFS, the RAM, it ate my RAM for disk cache. Now recently I've upgraded to 48 gigs, but since that happened, I switched to ButterFS on my Proxmox. I don't even use I think it's ZFS is what they usually use.
It wouldn't surprise me because I know that's what a lot of them default to. D-Dubs, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Of course, TrueNAS also uses ZFS, so same issue. ZFS has a tendency to claim RAM, but it will give it up. I mean, Linux does the same thing. If you copy a big file, it creates a huge cache buffer. So you say, "Oh, all my memory's used," but as soon as you need it, it's allocated to the new task. I find though the TrueNAS management is it's okay, but your point at the beginning is exactly the point I made: is what are you trying to do, and is this the solution? Because if you're only running a couple of Dockers or a couple of small things, then you don't even need the server. You can run them, on, your current system most likely, unless it's really low end. Unless your name is War Thunder.
Proxmox is very robust.
Yeah, and that's because I use ZFS. Granted, my servers all have a lot more memory, and I did the same thing you did when I first started on some very lower end laptops. Is I used BetterFS. They're both very, very good. I just like the fact that I could use replication with ZFS, and I could replicate between nodes at the block level as opposed to file system.
And this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it just popped in my head. D-Dubs, have you ever used a distro called Axos, AXOS?
Yeah, in fact, I think I told you about it.
Did you? It's possible because I'm trying that on my laptop right now. Their Hyperland setup is really kind of cool. I love their Waybar quick shell setup.
Well, they actually basically took the one from N4. It's almost 100% just a copy.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I should give them credit, but I never used that. But I've been using it for a couple days now, and it's like, man, I got to get into those animations because the animations switch between workspaces. Just it has something about. It's like I don't know why. I don't know why it popped in my head that I needed to ask you about it, but I did.
Yeah, no. The only problem I had with them was they weren't very good on maintenance, and they don't seem to be doing much with it. But it has a nice installer. It has it's got a lot of nice things about it. But
yeah, I haven't looked into it too much. I don't know if I'm making a video on it. No, I have it on the laptop. We'll see. It just popped into my head. Because Magma in the Discord shared something on Hyperland. That's the reason why it popped in my head. All right. Back to the home lab stuff, Matt. Get your mind out of the Hyperland stuff. All right. So, if you guys were to talk to someone who was considering getting into home lab, what would you suggest that they learn? What are the technologies that you think that they should put their efforts into? Promise Unix, go ahead.
Networking, because I still don't fucking get it. I still screw everything up as far as network. DNS, I got nothing. I cannot figure this fucking shit out. But just, I wish that's what I learned. I learned I hacked shit together forever, and then I ended up having this system that somehow worked. But I know nothing. I can't even get I can get AdGuard working on my NixOS system. I can get it working on a Debian system. I can get it working on an Ubuntu system. I can't make it work to do what it's supposed to do. I can't get Caddy to do what I want it to do. I hack shit together and it somehow works, but I know nothing about what I've done. And networking, 1000%. If you're going to home networking. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm in the. I don't think that I hack stuff together. I have the stuff that I have set up is set up correctly and is okay, but I have this constant fear in my brain that it's not good enough and that there's someone's going to discover a password somewhere that I forgot to change, and all of a sudden I'm going to lose all of my data, or my identity is going to get stolen. First off, I mean, if somebody really have at it, I mean, whatever. You're going to be very shocked when you discover how little there is actually there to steal. But there's a constant in my back that I'm just not very good. I don't feel, no matter how much security I do, how many, firewalls I put into place, if I do Pi-hole, or if I do, AdGuard, if I have, UFW set up on every machine, and I have failed to ban on my servers, and I have all of this stuff, all of this stuff that's set up, it doesn't feel like it's ever enough, and I'm still, feels like I'm always behind in terms of the security and networking stuff. So I 100% agree on the networking stuff. For me personally, though, for those of you guys who haven't tried out Cloudflare tunnels, just ignore Caddy 100%. Ignore Nginx. Use Cloudflare tunnels. I know Cloudflare is a company that you have to rely on, but it is so freaking simple to set up, and it allows you to treat all of your exposed services to the internet just like you were if you were going to have a SSL certificate issued through Let's Encrypt and Nginx, but without all of the nonsense that goes into setting it up. There's no port forwarding, none of that stuff. So it's just learn Cloudflare tunnels. It's so good. And if you don't want to do that and you'd rather rely on another company, Tailscale is also there. It does something similar. It's not as good as exposing stuff to the internet in terms of like you being able to use a URL. You can do it. It's just not as it didn't feel as cohesive for me. So those are my tips. Greg, you're next.
Yeah, I would second networking. Get a basic understanding of TCP/IP, subnetting, DNS, because if you're starting to host multiple services, I know Matt, you talked about ports, right? Ports is part of that too. And if depending on what you have, like if you have a Linux desktop computer and you're like, oh, I want to try Docker, I'll throw it on there. Well, Docker is going to wreak havoc with your local firewall and networking on your desktop, and things that you thought you had might not work, right? Or it'll just decide to open up ports and you didn't know that. Or if you're doing virtualization, it will conflict with bridging. And so if there's, you need to kind of have a basic understanding of what's going on. You have to be an expert, and networks don't have to be complicated. You don't have to segment your house into 10 different networks and do all this fancy stuff, but a good basic understanding of it, so that as you add on and layer things in, you kind of know what you started with, and you have some understanding of what it is that you're changing. Because sometimes you make like one little change, especially with DNS. What's the joke? It's always DNS. I mean, that was the AWS outage, right? So
Yeah.
You definitely want to learn a little bit of that. And I guess secondarily, and this is not to gatekeep, but to say that, I mean, you are going to want to dig in and learn a little bit more about how Linux and Unix operate. And my recommendation there is there's a book called the Unix and Linux System Administration Handbook. It's been out for quite a while, but there's a 5th edition out of it. It's an actual real life book, and you can sit down and read parts of it and learn how the file system works and learn networking and learn all sorts of stuff. And it's a great reference to have. And I would encourage, take a look at that first and then ask Claude after that. Otherwise, you're going to get thrown in the deep end too quickly.
Greg, I applaud you for recommending a book to this generation of non-book readers. No one's going to take that recommendation because most of them don't know how to read. I'm sorry, Gen Z. You know how to read. It's fine.
Well, sorry, Matt. I'm older than you, so
yeah,
I enjoy books.
I know, but still, my generation still knows how to read. It's the ones that come after it. I get in a lot of trouble with the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha guys because I have very low expectations for them. D-Dubs, go ahead.
I was going to say, they're still going to say, what is this thing? A book? What is it?
All right, boomer.
No, I agree. In addition to what we talked about, DNS, but understanding what TCP is versus UDP, that will cause you nightmares if you don't understand what those are. Especially when it comes to firewalls. By the way, another good thing about Proxmox is it has software-defined networking now. So you can actually create virtual networks to kind of experiment with and see what happens when I turn this knob and I don't cause an AWS outage in my own network.
Yeah, that'd be bad because you can't fire yourself.
Exactly. So no, there's what else I was going to say? Yeah, I'm actually going to go back to loop back to firewalls and that kind of thing, because that's another place where you could really, cause yourself some issues why things aren't working, and and again, to understand where your exposures are on ports.
I think my biggest downside of Docker containers is like Greg said, that they do mess around with that firewall, and understanding how they mess around with it is something that even after using Docker containers for, well over a year, I'm still learning. And the documentation on how they do it, and what you need to change in order to actually make sure you're secure, is not necessarily all the greatest. There are a few really good YouTube videos out there if you're interested in securing. If you're like running a Docker a server that has a whole bunch of Docker containers, that you should definitely search out some of those videos and see if you can make sure that you understand what's going on there. Gnome, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if we're recommending books, I wanted to throw in the Unix Power Tools. I think I've said it before, but it's also a pretty good book.
Does it have a lot of pictures in it? I don't know if I can get through it if it doesn't have a lot of pictures.
I don't know if there's a single picture. Might be a couple diagrams, but I can't guarantee any pictures.
Does it come in audiobook?
Probably not.
I'm kidding. Yeah, it's actually a good book. So I'm just trying to be funny. All right, so just speaking of containers, another thing that I would absolutely suggest, if you're going to get into this, learn about containers. Like if you're gonna do Docker, just learn Docker containers. Maybe you'll eventually graduate to Podman because you have certain specific reasons why you prefer Podman over Docker containers. I like Docker containers because everything is a Docker container. It's like that's the platform that most people, developers, have chosen to put their stuff into. But you can use Podman for a lot of stuff as well. And maybe eventually you'll graduate into controlling your whole home lab with Kubernetes and stuff like that. But definitely learn, Docker, I think at a minimum, because you can't, it's really hard to self-host something without knowing some Docker stuff, because a lot of self-hostable stuff only comes installable through Docker containers. Sometimes they'll have like a PyPy install of something. Like if you want to install Circs, I think you can install Circs through PyPy, but the version is old. So if you want the more up-to-date version, you have to use the Docker container. So in a lot of situations, the thing that you want will probably be in a Docker container, and you should learn it. And it's the thing is, like, there's this kind of fear around Docker that it's hard to learn. I learned it. Okay, it's not hard. I mean, there are some still things that I'm still learning about, and obviously networking and firewall management stuff is going to be there for a while. But in terms of actually setting it up and learning how to create a Docker Compose file it's a revelation, and it's really actually pretty easy. So I highly recommend checking out Docker. Promise Unix, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, try it. Like, I think a lot of people are thinking about doing a home lab, or they're thinking about Jellyfin, and then they read like 500 Reddit posts and 300 blog posts and 250 Facebook, or whatever. Should I try it? Well, just fucking try it. Like, we're also afraid of breaking our system. And cool thing about Nix, I'm not going to say it, but I think any distribution, as long as you have like a proper backup system, just try it. You can always go back to where you were. And that's my biggest problem. Like, it takes me forever. I had to research everything. And then I always say to myself, every time I install something and it works, I'm like going, why didn't I just do it from the beginning? Because I just wasted 3 days, So, and this is to me as much as it is to anybody out there that's doing a home lab. Try it.
I think that there's this idea. So, especially if your first exposure to the idea of home labbing is YouTube, a lot of the home labbing YouTube guys are great. I mean, they're all pretty good guys. They're obviously very knowledgeable about this stuff. But if your first exposure is Techno Tim or Raid Owl or Hardware Haven, not so much Hardware Haven, he does a lot of budget stuff, but like the big home labbing guys, they'll show you their network, and they have all of this high-end networking stuff, and it's all on like this map of, they have like 12 nodes, they have 13 VLANs, everything's on its own thing, and they have obviously hundreds of thousands of dollars in their home lab. And if that's your first exposure, it makes you think that that's how you have to home lab. Yeah. And it's really hard to, I know I had this problem. It's like, I have to go find a server. Like, you don't actually have to have a server to get into a home lab. Just get yourself, just pro tip, go on eBay, search for a Lenovo Think Center. You're going to find a 5-pack of these things for like $150. You can get 5 of them. You may not need 5 of them, but you can get 5 of them. And a lot of them will have hard drives. Some of them won't have hard drives, depending on, and they'll change the amount of money you're going to pay. But overall, check those things out. Yeah, that's a Dell version of it, but it's basically that thing right there. You can get a pack of them. And it's just so good. So yeah, definitely check that out. That could be your home lab, like, forever. Like, you never have to get that. Now, I went with an old HP workstation, and it has 128 gigabytes of RAM and a Xeon processor that I'm never using. Like, all of, it's fine, but I don't. It was only like $300, but still, I didn't need that much power. So get something cheap off from eBay. It absolutely will work. So
you could actually take this a step further about trying it, because I think that there's people that are probably watching this that have been on like Reddit thinking about switching to Linux. And I think that everybody posts on there like, which distro should I try? First one you Google, brother. If you don't like it, pick another one. If you don't like that, pick another one. It doesn't cost you anything. This is a cool thing about Linux. keep just playing and having fun and enjoying the experience. You know, if you're a first time user, obviously, if you're not interested in the techno babble, pick one of the main. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Ubuntu or Mint or Red, whatever. Pick one, but just pick one. If you don't like it, go to another one. If you don't like a desktop environment, go. This is the cool thing about Linux, and everybody's like also worried about like once I put this on my computer, I'm stuck with it forever. It's not Windows, people. It's Linux. Change. It's same thing with just trying to be in home labbing. Try it. If you don't like it, take it off your system and try something else. I mean, go for it.
I know he's not still here, but GNU to Linux talked about when we first started about how all he does is Proxmox or Plex. And if that's all you ever do, that's fine. That can be your home lab. Like maybe that's all you need. You know, when I first got into home lab, I got really crazy with the Docker containers because there's like a million Docker containers you can try. That slowed way down. I have maybe 10 or 15 of them that I actually use. Every once in a while I'll try out something new, but most of the time I just have the stuff that I need. And that's great. And every once in a while I'll get excited about Docker again and I'll go, try 10 or 12 of them or whatever and use barely any of them and get rid of them. It's great for experimentation, but you don't have to go super crazy on everything. Maybe you just have one need. Maybe you just want to have that movie on your computer. In which case, install Plex or install Jellyfin. I highly recommend Jellyfin because Plex is shit. But if you like Plex better, you can still use Plex. It's still kind of the same. It's just not as private and good as Jellyfin, but there are legitimate reasons not to use Jellyfin too, because if you don't have like the ability to transcode some things, it's not as good, and it's not as easy to get available outside of your network as Plex is. Plex seems to have a magic that just kind of does it. Jellyfin, you have to do a little bit of work sometimes in order to get to work, but yeah, I mean, just you don't have to complicate things. Gnome, go ahead.
I just wanted to agree with the whole, just kind of try Linux thing. Like, it is free. Now, obviously, when you wipe your Windows drive out, it's not easy to get that back unless you have a recovery from Microsoft. But with Linux, if you don't like it, you can just nuke the drive and start over. It takes about 15 minutes on most distros, and you're at a desktop again.
Mm-hmm.
Just try it. The first part of the Linux journey is distro hopping for a lot of people. Like, I did it for a couple years, probably top different distros, tried 5 or 6, from Ubuntu to Arch to, there was a couple, I tried a Manjaro even for a little bit. It's just find what you like.
Yeah, agree. Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, and I guess in terms of like, what do you need to get started? I think another thing would be try to find a community that can help you out. And these days, a lot of times that means online. If you're lucky enough to have like a local makerspace or a local Linux users group that meets in person, you can find in the ham radio community, we call it an Elmer, but you find somebody who can help you, like an old hand who helps bring you along, right? But in the if there's an in-person one, that's great. But otherwise, try to find an online community. Like this one is awesome. I was just recently joined the Discord server and have been poking around in there, and everybody seems very friendly, which is great. And that's what you need. The key to finding one is if you ask a question or suggest something you want to try, and the immediate response is 10 people saying, "Why don't you do this instead?" You may want to move on. And find one where they say, "Oh, I've done that. Let me help you." Or if it's, you can kind of get the vibe, but if you have a community to help you get started, that really can make all the difference. In a lot of ways, it's a solo journey, but you do need a lot of help to get started and to get going. And sometimes it's just nice knowing like you're not the only one who doesn't know how to do this.
Yeah, I completely agree on the community thing, and the TLC Discord is great. There are a few assholes in there, and I know their names. I'm not gonna name them. I thought about. You guys can notice the pause there that I thought about naming them for just a second, but you will get some people will say, well, why don't you use this? But it actually happens a lot less for whatever reasons. But finding finding a place where you could ask questions is whether it's starting Linux or getting into home labbing stuff, I think is very important. And the community that you choose, I think, matters quite a bit, because if you get into, if the community is consisted of all like the biggest nerds possible, you're probably not going to fit in as well as if you're in a community that has people who started off just like you did, you know, as a new person who's just starting off. If they have that same experience and it's actually fairly recent, they have a better tendency of helping out than the graybeards who have been around for a while and are probably like supporting 1,200 different projects, and they're all busy doing these things. And a lot of the older, I'm not saying older as an age older, but people who have been around a while in the Linux community often tend to have a certain way that they prefer to be asked for help. And that's fine. And there's a way of doing things, but like the Arch Linux forum is a good experience of this. If you go there and ask certain questions, you're going to get, you know, pilloried because of the way you've asked it. And the NixOS forums also, like if you go in there and you haven't done certain things before you pop in, you're probably going to get some responses like, hey, why didn't you do this first before coming here? And I think that's kind of more something general that you should do, but a lot of people don't do that stuff and then get upset when they don't get the appropriate responses that they, you know, expected. And also I'm going to go back to bitching about the younger generations again, but there does seem to be a tendency amongst some people, not necessarily even just the younger generations. I know some people my age who do the same thing, who go in and ask for a question. They're not asking you to help them; they're asking you to do it for them, and that's a big problem with the support on Linux as well. It's always a two-way street, is the way that I look at it. And the general thing with the community is you get back what you put in a lot of times, and that will, you know, cause your experience to be good or bad depending on how you go for it. Gnome, go ahead.
I forgot why I initially raised my hand, but I guess I can agree with you completely there. Like, depending on your distro, like say you use Ubuntu, you probably use the Ask Ubuntu forums, because a lot of answers are going to be in there. Just search the forums before reposting the same question over again. If you're using Arch, obviously check the wiki before trying to ask for help. Depending on which distro you use, if you don't do those steps, you will be ridiculed, and you may or may not get your question answered.
Yeah. Just in general, it's not always true, but just in general, I found that if you have a general Linux question, as long as it's not distro specific, you can go to the Ask Ubuntu forums and ask your question, even if you're not using Ubuntu, as long as you're not going there and asking about, you know, Arch Linux problem. If it's like a general thing, like if you're like really brand new and you're trying to figure out how to use CD or something, I don't know, you can go there and ask, and you're probably going to get some answers. Now, there's still going to be, every community has their you know, bad people, but you know, a lot of times you'll get your answers there. For whatever reason, the Ubuntu guys seem to be a little bit more helpful, not universally, but sometimes. D-Dubs, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but I also, as somebody who does a lot of support, it's very frustrating on the other side. It broke. I got an error. How do I fix it? What is it? What is the error? You know, it's frustrating that, because what you were saying is exactly correct. They want you to fix it. Tell me the answer. Be my Google, be my web search, be my AI. I don't want to do anything. And I actually had some people will write, you know, yeah, I could have looked it up, but I'm too lazy. Those go unanswered. I don't even reply, because otherwise I would like set them on flame. But it's just very frustrating. You know, you try to help them. We're all volunteering. I don't want to ask 20 questions. You know, good problem statement, a little bit of research. Did you put that same question into an AI or into a web search? You know, that's, and when you multiply that up to something like the scale of a NixOS Discord or the scale of Hyperland, you know, or like, for example, you go to the Hyperland forum asking about my Linux for work dot files or somebody else's dot files. or you're asking about Waybar. They don't do Waybar. They do Hyperland. But just the I'm sorry, but the laziness of many people is just very frustrating. So I understand when people like flame them. I do. It's still not nice or not right, but I understand it.
Well, I think, I mean, it's hard to be kind when someone wastes your time.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really hurt you to be kind, even if it takes you 3 seconds to respond, saying, "Sorry, I can't answer this question," or "I'm not going to answer this question." You can still be kind about it, and I think that's the big distinction I have with a lot of people who offer support is, if you're not going to answer my question, that's fine. Maybe I've done something wrong, or haven't done something, or I'm asking the wrong place, which I. Sometimes when you're a new Linux user, you don't know who to ask. Like, you're on Arch Linux and you're having a problem with KDE. And you go there and you ask a question about why is my KWin keep crashing, because KWin always fucking crashes. And you go to the Arch forums to ask that question, they're going to point you towards the KDE guys, but you didn't know to go ask the KDE guys because you're using it's like if you're on Windows, you don't go to random forums.xyz to ask your question. You probably should go to Microsoft to ask the questions. Now, I don't know if that, I mean, maybe that's not the experience because who uses Windows, right? But it's just, that's the...
No, but the distinction I want to make, though, is you don't go to your doctor and say, "Doctor, I have a pain." And the doctor says, "Well, what is it?" Well, you're the doctor. You figure it out.
Yeah.
You have to go and say, "I've got this or that or whatever." And that's all I'm saying, because it's just day after day, it really wears on your patience. So I always try to be nice, but I understand the other side of that, because just day after day after day after day, when you post here, if you want to, post it here, not here, and then people just ignore it, or you say, did you, by the way, all of these questions you asked were in the FAQ that I put, that people point you to. It's just, that's all I'm saying. It's just after a while, people do lose their patience.
That's the reason why D-Ubs got upset with me earlier when I asked him when NixOS was going to go stable again. Because Matt, do your own damn Googling.
I was like, yeah. Well, no, I mean, I guess I took it as, it comes out next month. And it's definitely was the same way. It's around this time. That's what they expected. But
Yeah, it was fine. I was just being funny. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, we're gonna go another way. It's like if you want to try stuff, or sometimes you know the answer, but you are not sure you want to ask, right? So something. So I always have my before VirtualBox and now QVN installed, so I can span a machine. So two mice sitting there, doesn't break my configuration or something, and maybe I get the answer.
Yeah. Gnome, go ahead.
I just wanted to chime in with the whole support thing. Like, I feel like that's kind of one of the hurdles to learning Linux is once you learn how to properly ask a question to get support, the only next step is like looking at the log file yourself and diagnosing the problem. Like, it's not real far to connect that dot once you know what, like, say, like you said, KWin is crashing. What's the problem? Oh, I need to go talk to these developers instead of Arch or Ubuntu or what have you. You need to go talk to the project itself. Once you figure out that, you can probably go search through their support forums and find the answer you're looking for.
You're right. I'm sorry I had to break in, but if you go searching through the KWin issues, you'll be there for the next 10 years. So that's not gonna help you. It's they have so many KWin issues on their bug tracker that it can't show them all.
That's funny.
So
it's good.
So I mean, and granted, some of them are from 1998, but still, yeah. I pick a lot of fun on the KDE guys, and I shouldn't because it's a good desktop environment, but their shit is buggy. All right. So last question that I have for you guys regarding the home lab stuff is: there something about your home lab that you want to do that you aren't currently doing? So I will start this off. I want to get into the AI. I am very cautious about the AI stuff. We've talked about this on a previous lug, but Claude Code is really fucking cool. But I want to self-host something like that. So I want to get into self-hosting AI. I don't know. I know Drew was talking about it earlier, and a couple others were talking about it, and I know it's not going to be as good as Claude Code and whatever, but I still want to see if I can get an approximation of that experience by self-hosting it. I think that that's where I'm headed next. I don't know that I have I have 128 gigabytes of memory, and I have a good Xeon processor, and I have a NVIDIA GPU of some very flavor. I don't know what it is in my home lab, so maybe I can have enough hardware for it. But even if I don't, I still want to give it a try. So what about you guys? Are there any things about your home lab that you want to try next that you haven't started trying yet? Who wants to go? Anybody? Going once? Promise Unix, go ahead.
You did that thing a little bit earlier about the Cloudflare. You just use Cloudflare. I've been trying to use Cloudflare and Caddy. Like,
yeah,
I thought I need Caddy, but I need Cloud. I don't understand network. If anybody fucking can help me with networking, I will love you forever.
Ping me on Discord.
It's really funny. I have all these services going on all these different computers, and they all work, but I just don't have that. You know, like just go to whatever, dale.jellyfin.com, like whatever, like all that shit. I have to get that shit figured out. I mean, I have everything else figured out, but that networking thing,
yeah.
DNS,
AdGuard. Are you talking about local host names for yourself? Like you can ping Jellyfin or ping Plex,
No,
whatever?
I think he's talking about actual URLs and stuff.
Yeah, I got like I just want to like when if I want to go into say Radar, right?
Okay.
I just search Radar and I just scroll down and I just find it where it's in my history and I just click on it. But I like to be able to just go to like www.dale like stupidthief.com and have Radar come up, right? Like
when you get a chance, ping me on Discord. I will help you set up Cloudflare tunnels because it's phenomenally easy. I
use Cloudflare tunnels. Like that's how I use it with my guacamole because it's the way I could figure out how to do it. Was I just Cloudflare tunnel, boom, guacamole.
Yeah, it's literally just a service that you run on your home lab.
So is it basically the same thing as Caddy and Nginx and shit like that?
Well, it functions like it doesn't function like those, but it has the same approximation of how, it has the same result end, right? It will allow you to go to, you know, for example, I have stats.thelinuxcast.org is like where I get all of my analytics for my website. That's done through a Cloudflare tunnel. It's the difference is you don't have to port forward on your router when you use Cloudflare tunnels because it's a service that runs on your computer through systemd, and it creates a tunnel basically is what it does.
But I don't want my local like my Jellyfin server that's connected to my media, right? I don't want that out on the interweb.
Yeah, you don't have to. You can pick and choose. You can do whatever you want. It's controlled by a YAML file. I got
Cloudflare D on my computer, and I can actually set this up, and this will actually work the same as like a Caddy or an
yes.
Holy fuck!
Yeah.
Really?
It's very, very easy. Like I said, ping me. I'll help you do it. It's
okay. We're gonna figure this one out.
It's very. If I can figure it out, it's very easy.
I've been struggling with Caddy and Nginx for like years, but I've got like Caddy I've Cloudflare D figured out, right? Like, okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah. I'll shut up now.
Greg, go ahead.
I'm gonna ping you.
Yeah, at me. Like the kids say. Go ahead, Greg.
Oh, ping at you. Okay, sorry. This case says I guess the at's important, but yeah.
So one of the aspects that I want to improve on or expand is, in addition to documentation, which I'm assuming is on everybody's list, is monitoring and alerting. So like I have Kuma to do like pinging and making sure that I know, and it sends pushover alerts to my phone, and but I just don't. It's not as good as I'd like it to be, and I don't really, and because what I'd really like to have is monitoring of various stats and drives and things like that, and then where that is set up to alert me to say, hey, your smart info has triggered something, or this processor normally is operating at 20%, and it's been at 50% for 3 hours. Maybe you want to see what's going on, stuff like that. I think would be interesting to set up, because way back when we had some pretty crazy, at the ISP I was at, we had some pretty crazy MRTG monitoring, and it was really cool. And I'd like kind of want to have that, like, type of setup. That and a whole mess of stuff I want to do in my Home Assistant, which is a whole other topic worthy of consideration.
Yeah, we should do a whole episode on Home Assistant. I think that'd be pretty fun.
We definitely should.
I'm not sure if there's enough people out there that do it to use it, but it'd definitely be something interesting to talk about. The whole notification thing that you're talking about, Greg, it's definitely something that I want to get into. So I've been having these random internet problems. I don't know what's going on. I've checked all the hardware. I don't know if it's the ISP or what it is, but I can't seem to narrow it down. So what I've done is I've installed a Docker container called Speed Test Tracker, and it basically just runs a speed test every however long. You can just set it up as a cron job. And I have it set up to send me a Telegram message if it falls below a certain threshold, because what I want to see is if there's a pattern to this. So what I'm guessing, and I haven't been able to figure it out yet, is that they've basically combined nodes here in my area for my ISP, and that at certain periods of the night, just everyone's getting on the internet and causing my upload speeds to go from 60 to 5. And it always happens during the podcast, which just pisses me off. But I want to see if there's a pattern, because if it's a node thing with the ISP, there's nothing I can do about it. I can't get on the phone and say, "Hey, what the hell are you guys doing?" I mean, I can, but they're not gonna do anything about it. But if it's a me problem, at least can figure it out. If there's no pattern to it, then it's probably an Ethernet cable that I'm has a gnaw on it or something from a rodent or whatever, and maybe I need to just follow that along. But the idea of having this thing that runs constantly and then pings me if there's a problem, I want to do some other things surrounding that. So like if my if I have a hard drive go bad in my file server, I'd love to have something just Matt, there's something wrong, come fix me. That'd be definitely great.
Exactly. For your network thing, if you thought of or tried smoke ping.
What is that?
So smoke ping is something that runs in the background, and it basically you set it up to ping a bunch of different things. So you could have it ping local stuff, regional stuff, national, whatever, and then you could get an idea of, like, do they all dip at the same time? Does your home network just dip? Does the rest of the world go away, but your home network is fine? It kind of helps you isolate where you might be having latency or dropouts.
I'll give that. I'm looking at the GitHub right now. I'll give that a try. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm still in the process of troubleshooting this, because it doesn't happen. My problem is that it happens often, but not frequently enough where I can spot the pattern. Like, or if there is a pattern, like if it, I don't know if it's the same night. It does happen. Does seem to happen on the podcast or the lug. Like one week it happened during the lug. It's really annoying, and it's the download speed always stays the same. It's the upload speed that goes down. It's very weird. D-Dubs, go ahead.
Also going to add to your list Uptime Kuma, which is also Docker, and that allows you to do quite a bit over time, because you'll be able to see those patterns. And the other thing you want to look at is SNMP traps. That's going to get you some of your messages about when something is going bad. You can configure computers, all kinds of things, to send you SMTP traps, so that, like, when there's a disk drive that has a failure or whatever, hardware failures.
It's like back in the day when everybody was discovered if this then that service. I don't even know. Does that thing even still exist? There used to be like a web service called like if this then that. You could set up, like, if I get a mention on Twitter do this, you know. It's kind of some of that, but for home labbing. Yeah, anyways, that's definitely something that I want to look into. So is there anybody else want to talk about what they want to do in the future before we close this thing out? We've been going for a little bit over 2 hours. Going once, twice. All right. For those of you guys who watch us live, thank you so very, very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We do 2 lugs every month. The first one is on the second Thursday of the month. That's 11:15 a.m. Eastern time. We always have a good time with that. It's a little bit different audience because we're catching more of the European guys, and it's great. So we have a good time there. And if you can't join on that one, we have a second one, which is this one. It happens the 4th Thursday of every month at 8:15 p.m. Eastern time, or thereabouts. Sometimes I'm running late. I've never been known for someone who shows up on time. Ain't gonna start now, whatever. But anyways, if you can't ever join, we do live stream it. We live stream this every time, so you can catch the VOD on demand if you need to do that, or you can watch us live, whatever you want. And even if you want to join but never talk, you can also do that. You don't have to. You can join the Jitsi call and just hang out and listen as if you're actually here, but you don't have to talk. So whatever you want to do, or feel free to raise your hand and take part. We also allow the community to vote on the topics. So this topic was chosen by everyone else. I put up a straw poll a week beforehand in the Discord server. So if you want to vote, the best way to get all the lug information is to join the Discord server, which you can find at thelinuxcast.org/discord. Thank you, Cloudflare, for making that really easy for me. I really like Cloudflare. I have a feeling though that they're like the Antichrist or something. We're all going to figure it out eventually, but it's going to be too late and we're all going to, die. That's just my thoughts on that. So anyways, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you guys next time.